Do not dare advance like this. The memory of humans' courage became a haunting reminder of what the galaxy had lost. Meanwhile, rumors of the Terran fleet's fate continued to circulate, as wild and impossible as they seemed. Some said humans had discovered something at the edge of the galaxy. Others claimed they had found a secret world, a weapon, or a hidden power. No one could verify these stories, yet hope and fear coexisted in the hearts of those who remembered humanity's past victories. In the heart of the conquered systems, humans' absence was deeply felt. Colonies that had been protected by Terran ships now faced impossible odds. Trade was disrupted, technology was stolen, resources were plundered. Entire populations felt helpless as the Zorath and Drazek empires expanded freely, their fleets unchallenged. And yet, even as the galaxy burned, hope persisted in small ways. Quiet groups of survivors whispered stories of Terran courage to children, passed along accounts of battles won against impossible odds, of ships that defied physics, of crews that had faced annihilation without fear. These stories became a lifeline, a reminder that humanity once present had been more than ships or weapons. They had been the embodiment of hope. The Zorath Dominion did not care for these stories. Its fleets moved with brutal precision, overwhelming resistance wherever they appeared. They thought the galaxy was theirs, that nothing could oppose them, and for a time, it seemed they were right. But somewhere in the darkness, beyond the reach of sensors and scanners, the humans were not idle. Though the galaxy had forgotten their presence, the Terran fleet was far from defeated. They were not hiding in fear. They were preparing. They had gone into the void for a reason, to find strength, to learn to evolve. The galaxy could not see them, but they were already shaping the future in ways no one could imagine. In the councils of conquered worlds, whispers grew louder. The humans will return. Some laughed at this idea, dismissing it as a myth. But even the strongest generals could not shake the memory of Terran unpredictability. Every battle plan, every conquest, was haunted by the ghosts of humans who had once defied reason and won. Among the oppressed, small sparks of resistance began to form, inspired by the memory of Earth's fleet. Secret networks, hidden outposts, and whispered alliances started to grow. The humans' absence had left a void, yes, but it had also left a legacy, the knowledge that a species, small and underestimated, could defy the impossible. That knowledge gave courage where fear had been. And still the Zorath continued. Their advance seemed unstoppable. Their fleets darkened entire systems. The galaxy feared that without intervention, the Dominion would consume everything, reshaping the stars into a harsh, unyielding order. Yet somewhere, far beyond the reach of these empires, the Terran fleet waited. Silent, invisible, unseen. The galaxy did not know it, but the humans were preparing for the moment when they would return. Not as the small, vulnerable fleet they had once been, but as something greater, something unstoppable. In the quiet, in the darkness, in the empty corridors of abandoned stations, a thought began to spread across the galaxy. If humanity returns, everything will change. And even in fear there was hope, because the galaxy remembered. Humans never gave up. Humans never surrendered. And humans never truly disappeared. The enemy advanced, but the Terran fleet waited. The balance of the galaxy would shift once more. Whether anyone was ready for it or not, the galaxy had almost given up hope. Years had passed since Earth's fleet vanished, and in their absence, the great powers had spread unchecked. Systems were enslaved, borders rewritten, and fear had become the language of the stars. Even the Council, once mighty and respected, struggled to maintain order. It seemed nothing could stop the tide of darkness. Then, without warning, a signal appeared. It was faint, buried deep in the static of the void, almost too weak to detect. Yet every ship that sensed it felt something strange, a resonance, a heartbeat almost human, pulsing through the sensors. Scientists studied it. Commanders monitored it. And slowly, carefully, the impossible truth began to emerge. It was a Terran code. Ancient, unmistakable, alive. News of the signal spread faster than any fleet could travel. Panic, hope, and disbelief surged simultaneously through the galaxy. The Zorath Dominion grew cautious. The Drazek Empire became uneasy. Even the Council convened emergency sessions, fearing the consequences of what this could mean. The humans were not gone. They had returned, or at least something of them was still out there. Scouts were dispatched immediately to trace the origin of the signal. They moved through uncharted regions of space, past sectors that had never seen an explorer's light. Every parsec brought tension. Every system seemed empty, silent, waiting for something to appear. And yet the signal pulsed on, faint but persistent, guiding them like a distant star. Finally, after weeks of travel, the scouts arrived at the source, and what they found stunned them beyond belief. There, in the blackness beyond mapped space, hovered the Terran fleet. But it was different from anything anyone remembered. The ships were larger, stronger, and clad in dark steel that shimmered faintly under alien light. Patterns etched into their hulls glowed with strange energy, and the fleet moved with a coordination that suggested intelligence far beyond known technology. They were not silent. They were waiting. Surrounding them was a structure unlike anything seen before. It was massive, built of black stone and glowing conduits of light, pulsing rhythmically. The ships orbited it like guardians around a heart. Every scout ship that observed the scene felt an almost physical awe, as if looking at this structure touched something deep inside, something primal. The humans had not vanished. They had chosen to go somewhere beyond comprehension, and what they had built was beyond imagination. The scouts transmitted their findings back to the galaxy. Messages reached the Council, the outer colonies, and even the Zorath and Drazek empires. Confusion and fear spread instantly. If the humans had survived, if they had evolved this way, then the balance of power that everyone had assumed was permanent could change in an instant. Among the Council, debates raged. Some called for diplomacy, hoping to find a way to communicate. Others prepared fleets fearing an unstoppable human weapon. Some worlds celebrated, thinking the humans' return would bring justice and hope to oppressed systems. But fear overshadowed everything. Humanity had always been unpredictable, and no empire dared underestimate what they could do now. For the smaller species, hope flickered anew. The stories of the Terran fleet's courage were no longer just legends. They were proof that even in the darkest times, humans had survived and grown stronger. Colonies that had once given up began to stir. Underground networks whispered of ways to signal allies to resist oppression, to prepare for the humans' inevitable return. Even the soldiers who had once fought against Terran ships felt a mix of fear and awe. The humans they had battled with, the ones who had outsmarted fleets and survived impossible odds, were no longer just dangerous. They were something else entirely. And now they were back, though silent, mysterious, and waiting. The signal pulsed again, stronger this time, almost as if it were calling to the galaxy. And then, for the first time in decades, the feeling of inevitability returned. The humans were coming back. The galaxy would not remain the same. The powers that had thrived in their absence understood, deep in their hearts, that nothing could prepare them for what was to come. The scouts returned with their reports. The Council listened in stunned silence. Traders, mercenaries, and pirates across the outer systems felt the subtle change in the void. Even the Zorath fleets, confident in their conquest, advanced with caution. For the first time in years, fear replaced certainty. Some wondered why the humans had waited, why they had vanished at all. But others began to understand the truth. The Terran fleet had not disappeared because it was weak. It had vanished because it was preparing for a moment that no one else could foresee. Preparing for a galaxy-wide challenge that would demand every ounce of human ingenuity, courage, and defiance. The signal pulsed once more, unwavering, echoing across the void like a heartbeat. The galaxy listened, holding its breath. Somewhere, Far beyond, the humans were silent, motionless, watching, waiting, ready. And the galaxy knew, in the quiet certainty that comes with fear and awe, that nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity had returned, not yet to strike, but to awaken the universe to a presence it had forgotten. The darkness of space had never seemed so alive. The galaxy had grown restless. For years, fear and despair had spread like a shadow across countless worlds. The Zorath Dominion advanced relentlessly, crushing every resistance. The Drazak Empire expanded into new territories, enslaving populations that once knew freedom. Trade routes became dangerous, colonies isolated, and the whispers of human absence haunted every corner of space. The universe had grown used to darkness. Then, without warning, the Terran fleet emerged. Ships that had once been considered small and fragile now appeared as colossal giants of steel and light. Dark hulls shimmered with strange energy, patterns of unknown origin running across their surfaces. The fleet moved with precision, but also with something that no technology could teach: instinct, courage, and unity. It was as if every ship had a mind of its own, every captain understanding the intentions of others And as the years passed, the uncertainty became a silent tension that bound the galaxy together. Even enemies who would have otherwise fought each other paused to watch the stars. No one could predict what the humans would do, or when, or even if they would ever return. For some, hope remained, fragile and quiet. For others, dread grew like a shadow ready to swallow light. But one thing was certain: the galaxy had not forgotten humanity, and somewhere far beyond the edges of mapped space the Terran fleet waited. They were silent, they were unseen, but they were not gone. The galaxy whispered in fear and wonder, unaware that the humans had chosen the perfect moment to vanish. For even in absence, Earth's children had already begun shaping the future, preparing for a day that would come, sooner than anyone could imagine. The void across the stars was empty, and yet it was full of questions, full of fear, and full of the memory of a species no one could ever truly forget. The absence of humanity left a strange emptiness across the galaxy. Systems once filled with human colonies and trade hubs now drifted in silence. Spaceports stood abandoned, star lanes were eerily quiet, and once bustling stations were dark. Traders and explorers who had once marveled at Terran ingenuity now moved through the void with unease, feeling the absence like a shadow that pressed on their hearts. Without the Terran fleet, balance itself seemed to unravel. The humans had always been unpredictable, challenging the powerful, protecting the weak, and forcing even the greatest empires to think twice before striking. Now, no one was there to stop the inevitable surge of ambition and cruelty. The Keltari seized border, systems they had long coveted. Entire sectors that had once remained neutral fell under their influence, forced into obedience with swift, brutal efficiency. The Drazak Empire, ever opportunistic, extended its grasp, enslaving entire populations who once relied on humans to defend them. Smaller species, who had lived in the shadow of human unpredictability, now faced the stark reality of power unchallenged. The galaxy was changing, and not for the better. The Council, once a place of hope and cautious diplomacy, was now a theater of panic and frustration. Ambassadors argued endlessly, but without the humans to disrupt the usual order, negotiations stalled, alliances fractured, old rivalries reignited with brutal force. Every sector of space seemed ready to erupt in chaos, and the Council's best efforts were drowned in the noise of fear and suspicion. Everywhere, species remembered humanity, not only for its victories, but for its strange, chaotic spirit. Human ships had never been the largest or the fastest, but they had fought with a tenacity no other species could match. Their courage had been a lesson to all who faced them. No matter the odds, no matter the enemies surrounding you, humanity would never yield. And now, without them, the galaxy felt exposed. In the outer sectors, whispers of rebellion and conflict spread like wildfire. Worlds that had once depended on Earth's interference now struggled to survive under the shadow of empires that no longer feared consequences. Pirates grew bolder. Mercenary armies expanded, and in the council halls of the largest empires, fear turned to dread as leaders realized just how fragile peace had been when humans were gone. Even the Zorath Dominion, one of the galaxy's most merciless powers, pushed forward without hesitation. Its fleets swept through vulnerable regions, claiming worlds and resources with terrifying efficiency. Each conquest was a reminder that humanity's absence had created an opportunity no empire could resist. For the first time, it seemed the galaxy was free from the chaos that humans had brought, but in that freedom, a darker truth emerged. Freedom without the Terran fleet meant total domination by the strongest, unchecked and unchallenged. The galaxy was quieter, yes, but in its silence, fear festered. Fear. Soldiers stationed on remote patrols remembered human maneuvers that defied logic, human commanders who had outsmarted entire fleets, and human courage that had shone brightest when hope seemed lost. They knew that a universe without humans was not safe. It was only waiting for someone or something to rise unchecked. In private chambers and smoky taverns alike, the same thought haunted everyone. If only the humans were here. The loss was not only military, it was personal. Worlds that had once looked to Earth for inspiration or protection now mourned quietly. Trade networks collapsed, colonies became isolated, and cultural exchange slowed to a crawl. Humans had not only been warriors. They had been explorers, negotiators, teachers, and pioneers. Their absence left not just a military void, but an emotional one. Even among enemies who had once fought against Terran ships, there was a strange sense of loss. Admirals who had once cursed humanity now whispered their names with a kind of respect. They were reckless, some said. They were chaotic, impossible, but at least they made the galaxy alive. And yet, despite the despair and uncertainty, one thought persisted in secret corners across the stars. They are not gone forever. They cannot be gone forever, because those who had studied humans knew something vital. No species so determined, so stubborn, could vanish completely. They might retreat, they might hide, they might wait. But one day, the humans would return, not just to fight, but to change the galaxy once more, and that day when it came would come with fire. But for now, the galaxy endured. It endured without the strange, unpredictable courage of humans. It endured the growing dominance of merciless empires. It endured the fear that lurked in the hearts of those who remembered. And in that endurance, the void left by humanity felt like a wound that would not heal, a silence that grew louder with every passing year. In the dark reaches of space, among the drifting remnants of once bustling colonies, travelers and explorers whispered stories of Terran courage. They told tales of battles that had defied logic, of captains who had stared death in the eye and smiled, of fleets that had seemed too few to matter but had changed the course of wars. These stories spread quietly, like sparks in the night, reminding the galaxy that humans had existed and that their absence was not the end. Yet even as hope lingered, uncertainty ruled. For the first time, species realized that the galaxy could survive without humans, but it could not thrive. The balance that had existed, fragile and imperfect, had been broken. And in the dark corners the fear grew. Perhaps the humans had not vanished by accident. Perhaps they had left for a reason no one could yet understand. And so, as empires plotted, colonies waited, and traders whispered rumors, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. It had lost the fiery spirit of Earth's children, and in their absence it realized the truth. Humanity had been more than a fleet. They had been a force of hope, a symbol of unpredictability, and a guardian of possibility. Without them, the stars felt colder, emptier, and uncertain in ways they had never been before. The void they left behind was not just the absence of ships. It was the absence of spirit, the absence of courage, the absence of the impossible. And somewhere, in the far reaches beyond even the most distant maps, the humans waited, silent, unseen, and preparing for the moment when the galaxy would need them again. Years passed, and the galaxy without humans grew darker. The absence of Earth's fleet created a vacuum of power that no empire could resist. Borders that had once been stable now became battlefields. Systems that had once been peaceful turned into war zones. The Council tried to mediate, but without humanity's unpredictable presence. Its words were like whispers in a storm. The Zorath Dominion, ruthless and merciless, saw opportunity. Their massive fleets advanced relentlessly, striking without hesitation into regions that had once been neutral. Entire planets fell under their control, their populations enslaved or forced to serve in brutal labor camps. Resistance was crushed with frightening efficiency, and the galaxy watched in horror as worlds disappeared from free maps, swallowed into Zorath control. The Drazak Empire followed quickly, exploiting gaps in the borders left by humans' absence. Once weak colonies became unwilling vassals. Once neutral trading stations now operated under strict Drazak authority. The galaxy's oldest powers rejoiced silently, assuming that with humanity gone, the future belonged to the strong and the cunning. But among the smaller species, fear grew unchecked. Those who had once relied on human intervention began fleeing, moving colonies, hiding fleets, or surrendering entirely. For them, the humans' absence was more than a military loss. It was the loss of hope. Without the Terran fleet, the galaxy's most dangerous powers faced no checks, no balance, no limit. Even within the council chambers, despair was creeping in. Ambassadors argued heatedly, but no plan could stop the advance of fleets unchecked by the Terran's chaos. The galaxy realized that without humanity, no force of diplomacy could hold the empires in line. And worse, the council began to admit it openly. They had come to depend on humans, not for their size nor for their strength, but for their unpredictability, their courage, their spirit. On remote patrols, commanders reported the same feeling: unease, fear, and regret. Even soldiers who had fought against Terran ships remembered their strange, indomitable determination. If they were here, they whispered quietly, the Zorath would. The galaxy was vast, filled with thousands of species, countless empires and civilizations that had risen and fallen long before Earth even dreamed of the stars. To the ancient powers, humanity was late, just a newcomer stepping onto a stage that had been set for millions of years. The Keltari had ruled sectors for 10,000 cycles. The Drazak Empire had enslaved entire systems, and the serene Aurelians had traded peacefully since the dawn of galactic memory. Compared to them, humanity was nothing but a child. And yet, the galaxy soon realized this child was unlike any it had ever seen. When humans first launched their starships, they were awkward, clumsy, and technologically far behind the great empires. Their ships were noisy, their engines unstable, their weapons crude. The older species laughed at them. In the halls of the Orion Council, ambassadors whispered with mocking smiles, "They will not last even a century. They are fragile. They burn too quickly." But then came the battles, and then came the fear. The first time humanity's fleet clashed with an alien empire, it should have been their end. The Drazak Empire sent a task force 5 times the size of Earth's defense fleet. By every calculation, the humans should have been erased from history that day. But they were not. They fought with stubbornness that bordered on madness. They sacrificed ships, they gambled with impossible maneuvers, and when others would have surrendered, they fought harder. Against all reason, they won. The galaxy watched with shock, and for the first time laughter turned into silence. The Terran fleet grew. It was not the largest nor the most advanced, but it became the most unpredictable. Where other empires fought with cold precision, humans fought with heart. Their admirals thought differently, their captains trusted instinct, and their soldiers carried something invisible yet unbreakable: hope. To fight a human was to fight an enemy who refused to accept defeat. To stand against them was to face a storm that grew fiercer the harder you tried to stop it. Even when beaten down, even when cornered, They always found a way back. This frightened the galaxy more than any weapon. At first, some species admired them, others feared them, but most could not understand them. Why risk so much? Why fight battles you cannot win? Why keep reaching higher when the stars themselves push you down? The answer was simple. Because they were human. And then, just when the galaxy thought it was beginning to understand this strange, dangerous species, everything changed. One day, without warning, the Terran fleet disappeared. It began quietly. Patrol ships stopped returning. Colonies on the edge of human space fell silent. Traders who once crossed human borders found empty stations, empty docks, and quiet skies. Then, as if swallowed by the void, Earth's warships, every single one, vanished. There were no distress calls, no reports of battles, no debris drifting in space. Entire fleets were gone as if they had never existed. The proud war banners of Earth, once feared across the stars, vanished into darkness. At first, the galaxy refused to believe it. How could such a force simply vanish? Some claimed it was a trick, a clever strategy by the humans to scare their rivals. Others whispered of secret weapons, of experiments gone wrong, of humanity destroying itself. The Council sent scouts, probes, envoys, and spies. But all returned with the same answer: silence. Human space was empty, their colonies abandoned, their fleets unseen, and in that silence the galaxy trembled. Because if humans were truly gone, then why was there no sign of their fall? No wreckage, no graves, no final message of defiance, only absence, only mystery. For some, it was a reason to celebrate. The Drazek rejoiced, saying, "The fire of Earth has burned itself out." The Zorath Dominion laughed, declaring, "The troublemakers have vanished. The galaxy is ours again." But others felt only unease. The Aurelians, wise and ancient, spoke in hushed voices. Humans do not vanish. If they are gone, then it is because they chose to go. And that was the thought that chilled the galaxy more than war ever had. Because if humans had chosen to vanish, then they had chosen it for a reason. The void where Earth's fleet once roamed was now a shadow across the stars. Every world felt it. Every empire whispered of it. The humans, the stubborn children of Earth who had shaken the galaxy with their defiance, had left behind a silence more terrifying than their presence. It was as if the watchers in the dark had closed their eyes. But deep in the hearts of those who had seen humans fight, a question burned like a spark waiting for air. Where had they gone, and why did it feel like they were not truly gone at all? The news of Earth's vanished fleet spread through the galaxy like fire in dry grass. Star systems that had never seen a human ship spoke of it in disbelief. Traders paused mid-transaction to whisper the rumor. Soldiers on distant patrols stopped their drills to stare at empty skies, wondering if the humans had ever truly existed. Even the great halls of the Orion Council, filled with the galaxy's most powerful rulers, echoed with murmurs of shock and fear. Some laughed at first, some cheered. The Drazek Empire celebrated openly, releasing public messages across their occupied systems. The threat is gone. The humans have vanished into oblivion. The galaxy is ours once more. The Keltari sent congratulations to their allies, congratulating themselves for finally outlasting the fiery upstarts of Earth. Even the smugglers and pirates of the Outer Rim seemed to relax, imagining patrols gone and trade routes open. But not all were joyous. Among those who had faced humanity in battle, unease grew like a shadow across their hearts. Fleet commanders, seasoned admirals, and spies whispered quietly in their private chambers. "This is not a disappearance," they said. "Humans do not vanish. They fight, they survive, they endure. But vanish? That is not human." Merchants trading in the black markets of the Orion Arm noticed it too. Ships that once carried humans' rare goods returned empty, abandoned. Stations had no personnel, and even the smallest colonies had ceased all communication. It was as if an invisible hand had reached across the galaxy, plucked the humans from every corner of space and left nothing behind. Rumors began to grow, wild and unchecked. Some said the humans had found a secret gate at the edge of known space, and left for worlds no other species had yet discovered. Others whispered that Earth's scientists had unleashed something too terrible to control, and that humanity had destroyed itself in a final, desperate act. In the quiet corners of the galaxy where small systems had once looked to Earth for guidance, fear replaced curiosity. If they can disappear like this, if they can vanish entirely, what else are they capable of? Parents would whisper to their children. If even the humans can go, what hope do we have? The Orion Council, which had once regarded humans as curious children of the stars, now faced an impossible dilemma. Without Earth's unpredictable hand to balance the growing tensions, the galaxy became unstable. Old rivalries flared, border disputes erupted into skirmishes, trade negotiations collapsed into arguments. Empires that had tolerated each other's presence now eyed their neighbors with suspicion. And the Council, helpless and uncertain, could only watch. Across the void, the humans' absence created a vacuum of power. The Zorath Dominion expanded aggressively, taking systems with brutal efficiency. The Drazek Empire extended its rule into neutral space, enslaving populations without resistance. And the smaller, weaker species who once depended on humanity's unpredictability found themselves at the mercy of empires that had never faced consequences for cruelty. Yet everywhere the humans were absent, their memory lingered. Stories of Terran courage, stubbornness, and sacrifice circulated through fleets and colonies like a ghostly presence. Captains of alien warships who had fought against the Terrans in the past remembered the strange, unshakable determination of human soldiers. Even when cornered, even when outgunned, they never surrendered. Some murmured, staring at the stars. If they were here, we might not be losing now. And then came the whispers, the first faint hints that the Terran fleet might not be gone by choice alone. Traders reported strange lights far beyond mapped space. Scouts claimed to detect faint energy signatures unlike any known technology. Smugglers spoke of black ships that seemed to move faster than thought possible, vanishing before anyone could reach them. Nobody knew if these were true. Nobody could confirm them. Yet the idea that humanity had left the galaxy entirely, or worse, had discovered something beyond comprehension, gnawed at the minds of every species. Some worlds began preparing, quietly, building fleets and fortifying defenses. Fear, after all, is a powerful motivator. They did not trust the humans, but they remembered them well enough to know what the humans were capable of. If the humans returned, the galaxy would never be the same. And if they did not, well, the galaxy might face something far worse. Even in the darkest corners of alien empires, the absence of humanity was felt. The Drazek generals who had once feared Terran tactics found themselves uneasy in empty space. The Zorath commanders, confident in their overwhelming numbers, still hesitated before striking into sectors where humans had been. They could not explain it. There was nothing there. But the memory of Terran defiance lingered like a shadow that refused to die. Across trading hubs, in taverns and spaceports, in the quiet reaches of nebulae and asteroid belts, the same question repeated itself. Where did they go?